And it bothered me personally that they didn't even acknowledge that. So I want to acknowledge you. Thank you. First today, we're going to start with Roger Castle on our agenda. Roger recently went to Mississippi to the Burnsville smelter plant there, and he would like to give a presentation as to what he found. So we have a good idea what they're about to put up on our hill right above us all. So I'd like to turn this over to Roger.
10 minutes? Are we still on 10 minutes? Okay.
Don't get too close to the screen.
So I can look at this clock.
Keep going. Yeah, the microphone is right there, Roger.
That's up, there we go. We're going to have to move really quickly here because we have way less time than we started out thinking we were going to. At least I had less time than I started out thinking I was having. So, Mike's ready. All right. We've all seen the map of Mississippi when we were in second grade, so go ahead on that. This is comparing Newport and Burnsville. As you can see, population, Burnsville. Interestingly enough, Burnsville, 926 people. And that hasn't changed for several years. Nobody's been born or died, or at least they always do the same, because the numbers haven't changed. Elevation, of course, is largely different, but median age is really interesting. Burnsville is 29.2, Newport 37.8. So much younger in Burnsville. The value of the houses, huge discrepancy, 152 compared to 59. When the income level,
Mike,
32.
Roger, Mike, Roger.
Hold it close to your face. I'm not talking. I'm talking now. I'm sorry. I'm not used. The cat usually doesn't have me do this to him. Anyway, the per capita income 17 to 14. So what we have is Burnsville is basically a logging community. All oak, hickory, elm, that sort of deciduous hardwood trees. And when the housing project, when the housing market fell, just like Newport, the logging ended and made them go forward. This is a picture off the internet. We can pass it up. You guys can go on the internet to see it from the back side, and I wasn't able to go to this side. This is the road right here that I came in on. I was allowed to come in that road. And at this guard shack right here, I was turned away and told no way was I going to get in there. Okay? This is incidental. This is the newspaper, the Corinthian in Corinth, Mississippi, where we got a lot of our information to start out with, especially on water usage and that sort of thing. This is coming into Burnsville. You can notice all the deciduous trees again. Okay, we're coming on. This is Burnsville in the distance, and again. This is Burnsville from the other side. It's just a little bit of stuff slopped on each side of the 4-lane that you kind of glance at on your way to Alabama. Okay? See, I'm doing great. Only 2 minutes. This is access road going into the smelter, and these right here are chip trucks. And I'll tell you in a minute about the chip trucks, but these are chip trucks leaving with the small chips like we're familiar with in Newport. What we see chip trucks going to paper mills, they're selling as reject, which I assume goes to paper mills or somebody like that. And this is again is on that access road. There's the sign going into the smelter, and yeah, I shake. Okay. This is looking back, the sign coming in from the other way, and just taking pictures of so many trees that blanket sound and light that helps them immensely. You might notice a little smoke here. This is smoke that's hazing away from the building, and a chip truck leaving. Okay. This is these homes are like a quarter of a mile away, and when I stand on the front porch talking to people, I could hear the sound, and I found it obnoxious. I'd have to describe it as just a dull roar. There are no beep, beep, beep from backing up forklifts or anything like that I heard. There are no, I'll get to it in a second, but I couldn't hear the jackhammers, couldn't hear gunshots, couldn't hear anything outside of the building, just a roar. And the minute I went in their homes to talk, I couldn't hear anything. Of course, I'm hard of hearing, but I still couldn't hear anything. Now, we'll go on that. Okay, go ahead. I'm messing up here. All right, this is those homes looking back, and there's the stack, the big stack, and go again. And that's looking back from by the stack. Click it one more time. There's the short stack. So there are two stacks actually. The stacks, my biggest complaint about the stack itself was the blinking lights on it for the aircraft. All right. There we are. We've arrived at the smelter. Now this smoke, I saw a video on a cell phone of a furnace operator behind a steel plate, just like we used to see in the 30s in the steel mills, with a rectangular hole in it. The furnaces reached 4,000 degrees, he told me. And there was open flame in the area around the furnace. I'm not sure, the wood and the coal and the quartz are vaporized inside of the furnace, so I'm not sure where the flame was on the outside, what the reason for it was. But this is smoke that's in the building, and this is coming out of windows and vents and whatnot up on the top of the building. It really has to be, some of that has to come down low inside the building for the workers to work in the environment. It's got to be horrible in there. All right? And the stack, now that emission coming out of the stack, this other look dark colored like smoke pretty much. Don't know what's in that. We really need an analysis of what's coming out of that stack. Now, again, more third-hand knowledge to you guys. I was told that there's an EPA individual that monitors that stack and this mill 12 hours a day every day. So somewhere, if somebody could find how to get to EPA in Mississippi and find out what the analysis of that material is, theoretically it should be there. And you notice how pretty the leaves. I had to scrape ice every morning there, so fall was arriving, and it was a nice contrast between the red leaves and the smoke. Okay. And there's this is the same. Well, this is where the chip trucks come out of, and that's the same stack. All right. And again, just another angle shot. And at this, I'd like to mention here, this is it looked to me like a 3-story building. Well, guess what? If the smelter is built up on the hill out here, the president of High-Test told us they were going to have a 6-story building. So it's going to be a bigger monstrosity. Okay? And smoke drifts away on a day when there was a breeze. I was there 3 days, and one day there was a breeze, and that smoke pretty well cleared out. But on the days when it was still, it just hung. Now, I'll tell you, the furnace operation, as it was told to me by the head of the maintenance department, who I talked to in a separate issue, not in the plant, I wasn't allowed in. And so he said the furnaces are in a machine that are kind of a cradle thing. They're held in this thing. And while the coal and the quartz and the coal and the quartz and the wood are vaporizing, which they don't burn, they vaporize, and then cool and turn back to liquid. While that's going on, and that's turning, and it turns around until it gets to the right temperature, and that temperature is altogether the most crucial thing. And then at the point when they're ready to pour it into molds, okay, North Idaho, are you listening? They use an 8-gauge shotgun and shoot a hole through the side of the furnace, and that's what they pour out of. Yeah, true story. And, yeah, I know North Idaho likes that one. So then the molds are pushed about 50 feet away, and when they get to the proper cooling temperature, a machine with giant jackhammers comes in and busts it into granules that is packaged in big bags and put on ballots and hauled out by truck, to be shipped. The quartz and the coal, of course, as we know, is either from Kentucky or Columbia, and is taken to either Pennsylvania or Denmark to be cleaned and washed and made into supposedly clean coal. And the quartz itself is washed, in this case, High-Test tells us, in British Columbia. So therefore, there's not at this mill, and apparently the smelter here won't either grind quartz. So you're concerned about pollution from coarse dust particles being in the air may not be a case. Now, the guy that works here, that's head of the maintenance department, just like the president of High Test told us at one of those meetings, says this is the most refined, up-to-date bagging system in the world, and that this air is filtered as best it could possibly be. So air pollution may not be the issue we think it is. Again, we need to know what that stuff is coming out of the stack. It's water vapor and what? The quartz is, if it's washed and it's going in, oh, I didn't tell you about the wood. Okay, the wood is chunks about the size of an orange, and so are the quartz chunks. When the quartz chunks are brought in, they're all orange size, and so to chip those chunks of wood in Mississippi, they had to buy a machine from South America to make the large chips, and so that's why I say the small chips are reject and being sold out off site. I was going to say something else about that, lost it now. Anyway, I sent my notes, but you notice I'm not reading them just like I always do. Why bother? This is an ad on the internet. Now, I've looked at a lot of ads in the Corinthian newspaper. They're constantly, because the turnover is so high down there, they're constantly looking for employees. And this is an ad for an engineer, an electrical engineer, 60 to 70,000. Nothing untoward, unusual about that. That looks about right. Pay scale for that area looks about right. Next. So here are the jobs we get, and this is the majority of the on-floor jobs. Now, 1 year experience required in furnace, kiln, dryer, kettle operators, and tenders. Mike Manus told us that he had talked to the Spokane Community College and Wazoo, and they're preparing to put in courses for people to learn to be furnace operators and such. Well, here we are, we'll be exposed to potential hazardous conditions, extreme temperatures. You're working in front of a 4,000 degree furnace. They work 12 hours a day. This one says $17 minimum. Actually, the guys working down there told me it was $15 an hour to start, and if you stayed 3 years, you could get up to $17.50. And there's no benefits until you've been there 3 years, and that they've only been in business 2 years, so nobody's would have made it 3 years yet anyway. However, he said the turnover is so high because it's such a physically demanding job, just like it says here, working in that high temperatures, 12-hour shifts, that they just can't last. They just burn out. Okay. So this is the shift here. So they're working 4 nights in a row, then 3 nights off, and that is 48 hours. Now, he told me they seldom pay overtime, so I don't know if they can work that many hours without, I always, at State of Washington, it's time and a half after 40. But maybe maybe it's not that way in Mississippi, I don't know. Personnel that works on average 42 hours a week, so they should be getting 2 hours overtime every week, but they don't. Okay, I think we're going to make this, the high points. So this is what the telephoto of the top of that building. It's a pleasant sight to leave this, pleasant view in our mind to leave this on. It's what you do. You build one of these in a poor area like Burnsville and Newport. If you don't want to haul your quartz to China, I mean, this is it. And my biggest complaint, now the air pollution certainly needs to be looked at. But I walked among the woods. I walked up to the line of the smelter property quite a bit. I saw no sign of pollution or damage to any ground cover or trees or birds. They were there singing, seemed happy. Of course, maybe they were drunk happy or something, I don't know. But I asked many people if they had any dust on their cars, any sign of anything coming through the air. The answer was negative. The people there are so blasé, they don't really pay a whole lot of attention. They don't notice the trucks on the road. I talked to the mayor, and the mayor, I said, what do you think of the smelter? He said, what smelter? And I said, Mississippi Silicone. Oh, that's a smelter? And so they just aren't paying attention down there. But in terms of pollution, I just see nothing that tells me the pollution. Now, the light pollution, the blinking lights on the stacks, and the lights of the building. I was there at night, and yeah, it bothers me. The noise bothers me. However, the furnaces in Newport are so dissimilar from this system that water isn't an issue. They're going to use 8,000 gallons of water a day here, which to me is a drop in the bucket. I wouldn't be too worried about that. But that means they're going to take 2,000 gallons of that and run it through a closed loop system for cooling, and that means chiller fans. And I've asked Greg Dorn to supply me with information about those, but we'll see if he answers back. But I think we're going to have a real noise issue. I think this thing is going to make, those fans are going to make so much racket. Plus, since this smelter has 2 furnaces, ours is going to have 4, and they're going to be much larger in size, the furnaces themselves. That will mean more cooling required by the chiller fans. I'm a layman at this. I have no experience to base it on, but as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be really noisy, and I think I better quit and let somebody else go on.
Next, we have Bill Ellis who's coming up to do his talk.
They've only been there 2 years.
Oh, you don't need this. Okay.
That doesn't really give long-term effect to the pollution on
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. My name is Bill Ellis. I'm a mechanical engineer. And
Mike, no.
I was there for, I think, the second public presentation that High Test Sand made. And the sound of manure hitting the ground is the reason I joined this organization. Okay, a green facility, they're saying. High Test is claiming, and so are many of the people supporting them.
Mike.
Really? It's not happening, huh? God, it's loud up here. Okay, this is not green.